Let's get started.
Let's do that. Happy
Should
New
we?
Year, Clint.
Happy New Year to you.
Good to see you.
It's good to see you.
You look shiny and new.
I'll
check back in May.
I have a new moisturizer. That's all that is. It's not real. Underneath the moisturizer, it's terrible.
Okay. Good to be here with you.
It's good to be here with you. I wanna talk about 2025 and the struggle that was for everyone, and in particular a lot of communities within Utah. But before we get there, why don't we start with how you came to be the CEO of the Utah Black Chamber, your background and your history. I think let's start there. People would love to hear that.
Okay, let's start there, and I'll give you the condensed version. I'll be 64 years old this year, so you don't want the long version of that. So we'll do the edited aspect of that. One of the things I often talk about is that I started my entrepreneurship journey at 7 years old, but I didn't know what that was. I didn't have the nomenclature to apply to that because I came from a family of educators who were also entrepreneurs, right? It was required if you wanted to have a decent life. You didn't just do your career and your day job, that type of thing. And so I'm from Louisiana, so it won't be a surprise, although they were educators, and it was a bit controversial where I'm from. My mother and her sister were nightclub owners. And they did that very well, but at 7, my job, my responsibility, I know I'm going to miss a lot of folks because of their generation, but we had 7 nightclubs, and each club had a jukebox. We know what a jukebox is. My responsibility was to count the money in the jukebox. I still have the keys to those jukeboxes today.
That's awesome.
And so my responsibility was to count the money, stack it, wrap it, roll it, and create the deposit slip. Because on Mondays, a certain amount of that money had to go to the bank. A certain amount was left behind so that they would have money for the till, for the cash register behind the bar, all of those things, right? But I'm 7. I did not understand until I was an adult the level of responsibility, but the level of trust. No one ever checked my math. On Monday mornings, I went to the bank with the deposit slips. My mom never checked it. And as an adult, I began to think about that. Should it have been that much trust? Understanding that they were preparing me for something, they were helping me develop skills that I didn't understand at the time, but understood how to use them. And so in my education, how I approached being a student, how I approached going to the nightclubs, all had the same zest and zeal. I own this. I am totally responsible for if I'm gonna have a good time. I'm totally responsible for if I'm gonna make a great grade. That development began then. And so, although my entrepreneurial journey did not begin until my 30s, even the work environment for me, I had to own the work. I wanted to understand and know everything about it. But that's what you have to do as an entrepreneur. You may not do it all, but you certainly need to understand it all. Yeah. And so then fast forward, I began my entrepreneurial journey, and that shifted. Originally, my first business, I did grant writing. And I know we just talked about this on yesterday, but I love to write. I
You're
had
a great writer, by the way.
Oh,
You're a
thank
great
you.
writer.
I got some things up my sleeve. That's another conversation. But because I had this passion for nonprofits, I think I did well, but I turned down more clients than I took on because there were certain things, certain aspects to be my client. I would be very honest with you and tell you, you are not going to get this funding. And here is why. And so if you're willing to work on these things, and I'm not the person to work on them with you, I could take your money and write this grant, but I guarantee you, you're not going to get it, and here's your why. And someone, well, we can just take a shot in the dark, and well, I'm not going to go in the dark with you and make that shot. And so I did that until I left Washington, D.C., returned to Louisiana in response to Hurricane Katrina, and I took on the National Emergency Grant Fund for the city of Baton Rouge for victims of Katrina. That led into me going into technology, and then I acquired an accounting and finance firm. The focus of that business was nonprofits, mid to small businesses. And I had some big clients, Girl Scouts of America, NeighborWorks America, but got heavily involved in social impact investing. Partnered with Sorensen Impact here at the University of Utah. That's how I learned about the Utah Black Chamber of Commerce. And I bought that business to sell it. That was my strategy. And in doing so, I wasn't quite sure of what my next was going to be. And I'll call her name, give her a shout out. Frazier Nelson is who told me about the Utah Black Chamber, and she always says, I want to take all the credit for you being in Utah. And I looked at the opportunity, and my husband said at first, he was like, that is so you. That is what you do every day, so why not? So we packed up and came across the country. And so here we are. I'm very passionate about it, but if you know anything, you can't eat passion. Passion doesn't pay the bills, it can help fuel it, but there has to be those elements of having a sound, structured, viable business. And sometimes we go so far with the passion and we're exhausted. Our businesses aren't structured well. The financial infrastructure isn't there. And so we have, I call, fleeting moments of success, and what we really should be focused on is sustainability. This year, what we're really focused on at the Chamber is legacy, because we build valuable entities, and then when something happens to us, it's just gone. You know, and I say, so what if your kids don't want to do it? Did you build something that's valuable? Sell it. Then that can become a part of them building their own legacy. And so that's just a little bit about what I've done, but the who that I am, I was a girl who hid behind my intellect. I didn't talk a lot. My husband shares the story that he observed me in high school. We didn't connect until we were adults. But his observation of me in high school, I ran track. And so you go everywhere as a team. And the team would sit together. The team would sit here, I would sit here by myself. And because what people knew of me, that I was nice and all of that, right? You'd have a few people who would come over to sit with me. And I would get up and move. My self-esteem was that low that I did not engage. But you put on music and I would dance because I could do that alone. I didn't have to talk. I didn't have to engage. And if you danced with me and you tried to talk with me, I literally would walk off the dance floor. So I had to grow into that. I literally hid behind the fact that I was smart. Like oftentimes we hide behind our businesses. We just had that conversation about getting to know the people. And when you ask about the success of the chamber, I think because we are very intentional and deliberate about understanding who the people are, because until you really understand that, I honestly believe I can't really help you with your business.
You just said something really interesting there that I think about a lot too, which is how often we attach our identity to the company or organization that we're leading. Like, we are that. So in our case, like, you are the Utah Black Chamber. I am Silicon Slopes.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
truth
we're
is, we're
not.
not at all. Like,
We're
yeah,
not.
like, we're certainly like, and it kind of cuts both ways. Like, when your business is super successful, that doesn't mean that you are super successful just based off of that. And when your business is struggling, that doesn't mean that you are failing.
Exactly.
Right, because of that. Like,
But we tether
but we
ourselves
attach
to
our
it.
identity to that. And so how do we fix that? And what can we as leaders and you as a leader, how do you talk to people about that?
I think giving people space to really be who they are. First of all, we're far too judgmental. Okay? And so we talk about our First Friday events, right? We talk about it. And our Small Business Advisory Committee, we talked about it may be 3 or 4 engagements with someone before I actually find out what their business is. Because I'm really intrigued by them. I want to get to know them. But then understanding how business works, business really works because of relationships. So if I lead with the business, then what I really want to know is you, because that inherently is who I'm going to be working with, right? The business itself is the bonus, but the value is really in you, the person.
Let's go back to what we started at the beginning, like the struggle that was 2025. What did you experience? What is the members of the Utah Black Chamber experience, and how can we take what we learned in 2025 and use it in 2026 now that we're at the beginning of this year?
Here's what 2025 showed us, and I'm not speaking of just the chamber. If nothing else, it showed, and I'm going to say this in my Nikki Walker voice, everybody could get it. It was hard for everyone. It did not matter if you were solopreneur, entrepreneur, Fortune 500, Fortune 100. Everybody felt 2025. No one could say, oh, I was good, I was cool, I was... If you say that, you're not being honest with yourself. You're lying to yourself and everyone else, right? So I think part of what 2025 taught us is that we're more alike than we are different. And although we are in a culture and a climate now that is more divisive than many of us have experienced in our lifetime, we know it existed before, but it's more than what we've experienced in our lifetime. So now it's our time. And so, but this is the time, if at any point in your life you weren't focused on you to understand who you are, how you navigate, how you critically think through things, we all are there. And so we had to move away from the quick fix because we didn't know what was next, right? So really understanding and getting to the who that you are, what's really the purpose and the benefit of your business, because some of the decisions were, you know, I've been grinding, which is something I don't subscribe to. I've been grinding through this, but it's really not a business. That's a hard conversation that the chamber has to have often. It's a wonderful idea, but fundamentally, it's not a business because the business aspect of it is to what? Generate revenue. And if you're not generating revenue, you're not a business. Doesn't mean that it shouldn't be hard, but if you cannot foresee how This is truly going to generate revenue that's going to get you past success. We stop at success. We have to begin to focus on sustainability. And so those were the conversations we were having, but also as a Chamber of Commerce, we had to begin to prioritize workforce because the workforce was depleting on purpose, right? And so now you have a lot of experts and experienced and educated people who are unemployed but still have value to those industries and helping them to understand your approach is different. I just had a very tough conversation with a brilliant woman, got laid off. She'd been there 18 years, could not wrap her head around becoming an entrepreneur. And she just said, Dr. Shorter, I don't want to do it that way. I just want to go in and do the work and get a check. I said, but if we take this model to a consultant standpoint, you still bring value, they still need it. Well, yeah, you're responsible for your own insurance and things like that, but you also are still the expert that is needed. They're just not engaging you from an employee standpoint, because when we look at what happened with government employees, once upon a time, you could just jump from agency to agency. If I got laid off at the Department of Education, I have a skill set that they still can use over at the Department of Transportation. Well, they're not hiring either. They're doing the same thing. So you couldn't do the agency hopping. But do you have value? Because what we're seeing clearly now in 2026, and it's happening pretty quickly, those roles, that work, still has to happen. How they're engaged is different. And so being prepared to help people transition from employee to entrepreneur had to become a part of our work, because they absolutely still had value. They just had to address it and approach it differently.
How do you think AI plays into this? Like, it does seem like it's easier than ever to be an entrepreneur and to build software and to build a product and all of that type of stuff. But also, AI has the real potential to eliminate all jobs in a way. So, like, what is how are you thinking about it? How are you advising chamber companies, or just in general? What do you think about AI?
I don't believe elimination is the end result. I can't hang my hat on AI is just going to eliminate jobs. There's certainly the opportunity for efficiencies. We were just having this conversation, but I think that just because, so we have gone from Google to AI, right? And I use this as an example. We would Google all of our symptoms before we go to the doctor, and we would have the diagnosis in our head.
It was always cancer.
That's the thing. That's what it is. And so then the doctor would run the test, and the test would say something different than what you Googled, right? Because you have to get down to what it really, really is. Right now, I don't think AI is getting down to what it really is. I use the example with you of, it can build me a website, and then what? Okay, so now I'm looking at the website. Oh, well, how do I get it on my computer? Well, how do I get people to look at it? There is still the need for the people. It can help efficiencies, absolutely. Yes, it can do things that we don't want to do, right? To me, AI is the Roomba vacuum cleaner. Not at my house. You missed a spot. AI is going to miss a spot, right? And it tells you, well, first of all, if we just stick to the first word, artificial. I don't know why we weigh so heavily. We give the intelligence part 90% and the artificial 10%. I think we need to look at the equation of that, because it tells you all of this is not accurate. I believe the more we lean into it, it will begin to take away what is needed as a human, and that's our critical thinking skills. There's a large university right now that I don't know at what point the professors really realize that, oh my gosh, these students are not writing these papers. They are using AI. And AI can educate you on some things, but as we lean in more, it takes away our capacity to critically think. And critical thinking is necessary as a human being. And so, for example, the attorney, I will give him credit that there's some critical thinking. He went to law school, he finished, he got his law degree. But he did not think to check the sources that AI gave him before he gave it to a judge. And now he's disbarred. So we have to think about how we lean in, what we do with the information, right? Because my books will read to me, right? My books will actually read to me. So far, the signs on the interstate are not reading to me, not just yet. I need to have that skill. And however we figure it out, when we even think about the level of literacy and how you have people who have functioned in society without being able to read. But what they did have was critical thinking skills.
Yeah, I think about this from a tech perspective, from a civil consultant's perspective. And I would say for the past 15, 20 years, our community has been like, don't go to college, learn to code. Right? I mean, that's been a big piece of our message. If you look at one of the most prominent people in all of tech, Peter Thiel, he had this Thiel Foundation or something like that. I can't remember exactly. Thiel Fellowship, something like that, where he gave prospective students $100,000 not to go to college. I'll give you $100,000 not to go to college. And at the time that made a lot of sense, right? Because hey, coders were making $300,000 a year, insane benefits. All the big tech companies were vying for them and all that type of stuff. And now we all have Claude Code for $20 a month that can do what they do. And maybe what we missed in that period where we were telling people not to go to college, and again, I don't know if you should go to college or not, but I do think liberal arts degrees and studying philosophy and studying the English language and studying literature and all those types of things becomes so much more important now because AI is going to do all the technical stuff for you. Mm-hmm. And so it goes to the critical thinking skills that you're talking about, where that becomes the most valuable thing in the world now, more than can you code in Python or Django or Java or any of these things.
Right. Well, it's also leaning into what your gifts, talents, and interests are.
Yes.
And so there has to be space for that. And so for us to just lean into the AI, I think just as a society, we are doing ourselves a disservice, because is it beneficial? Absolutely. I just recently got another degree. And so
That's remarkable.
I'm sorry.
That's remarkable.
Oh.
Why? Why?
I love learning.
Yeah, that's so cool.
I love learning. I just believe that every day that I wake up, there's more to learn, there's more to share, there's more love to give, there's more love to gain. That's how I approach the day. And if there's another degree to be had, then no. But part of it was that we had to use an AI tool. So there were 3 different AI tools that had to be used. One was to assist you with your writing. The other two were to assess whether or not you used AI before you could turn in the assignment. So, and I loved it because it would tell you absolutely 10%, 12%. If it was over 35%, it was like, it flagged it like, oh, you didn't write this. So my first time using it, I wrote my assignment. I used the first tool. And so I am reading it, and so it lights up all of these things, and it's making recommendations on what I should say and how I should say it. And I said, oh my gosh, I must really be off base, because that's not what I'm not trying to say this at all. This is not what I want to say. And then it was like I got offended because I felt like it was changing my voice. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take a shot. I'm not accepting any of these recommendations, and I'm just going to put it through the next and the next. Well, so this is my first assignment. And so when I put it through the next AI tool, it came up 0. Like I had used no AI. Well, I sent a screenshot to my husband, and he knew how long I had been working on that assignment, and he was mortified. He was like, oh my God, you made a 0 on your assignment. I said, no, it's 0 AI, 0 AI. So it made it through the next one, and I submitted it. Well, I got an exemplary. So in my mind, like, I don't need this voice. I don't need this voice to communicate for me. Now, if my subject and predicate didn't agree, and you want me to correct that, and it was consistent that it would give me these things back, that's not what I'm saying. And I never was willing to take the risk of accepting them and turning in my assignments just to kind of see I wouldn't take that risk. And so I found that was very interesting, and how for those that will accept it just for the grade, right? But it's also a part of my learning. So if it's changing my thoughts into something else that I'm not saying, how is that influencing or impacting me? And so that was a challenge. That was a challenge for me. So nope. I don't want it. That's not what I'm saying. Absolutely not. Yeah. That's crazy.
And that'll be the differentiator. That will be what stands out in today's world. Because I go on LinkedIn or any of these social media platforms, but in particular LinkedIn, and I'm like, no one's writing any of this. Like, they all have the same format. It starts with like that one sentence, like, I never thought I would work again, period. And then there's like another, you know what I mean? Like, right. And like, they're all like that. And I'm like, are AIs just talking to each other? And there's nobody actually behind these writing these things. Mm-hmm. And so you just immediately ignore them. Like, because it's like the AI has learned like those types of posts are ones that go viral or that do well. Mm-hmm. And so now everyone's doing them.
Right.
And they may be doing well or not. Who knows? I have no idea. But nobody's actually reading them.
Right.
They're not making any sort of impact.
There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not saying that anything is wrong with it. It's a decision that you have to make for you, right? Because I am sure because it was mandatory that we use this platform. And the university's thought behind it was that it would help students, because all students aren't good writers. So it would help them improve their writing. So it has some benefit, but you have to know that for you. Mm-hmm. You have to know that for you.
Yeah, that's so smart. I want to talk about Utah and issues, but does anybody have a question or something that they'd like to ask the doctor? If you do, just raise your hand as we go here, and we'll make sure that it's recorded and all of that.
Well, one of the things I'll say when I look out and I see the team, and thank you all for being here from the Utah Black Chamber, is that there are varying levels of utilizing AI that I know is used to carry forth our business. It's just like when you do a lot of grant writing, one of the things I always advise is whoever you are writing the grant to, use their language, because that's what they understand. Speak to them in their language. When you speak to them only in your language or in AI language, because everyone's responding to the same questions, and although your work may be different, they are pretty much seeing the same content. They are reading the same things. So if you are authentic and original, that's what's going to stand out. That is what's going to get their attention. So it's the same thing in our existence. If we all said we're going to walk just like Clint, we're all going to wear glasses, we're going to wear the baseball. To me, that's what artificial intelligence does, because as much data as it has access to, more than we could get our hands on, if I'm the first to say it, and hopefully there's some tech people can debunk this, it's kind of lazy.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Because that's why we keep seeing, like you said, I can see the pattern, like it says this every time. Yeah. And so if you've got access to that much information, well, why are you giving me and her and him and him? Why are you giving all of us the same information?
So my question in regards to AI and an opinion that I'd like to hear of yours is something that I think of with AI is that perhaps it's taking over some of the mundane tasks so that the human brain can actually evolve even further into doing more of those tasks of like philosophy, and maybe some people now are of course using it in a way that makes them lazier and is kind of replacing these things. I see the concern there, but do you think that there's also a potentiality that it could help the brain expand and evolve by allowing the human brain to have more time to do those types of things?
It could if you do it. But if I'm given more time, so then what do I do with the time, right? So it has the capacity. Like I said, the first thing I said was the efficiencies, right? So if it allows us these efficiencies, the time that it frees up, us as the humans, what are we doing? Are we watching TV? Are we scrolling? Are we writing? Are we reading? Are we working on those critical skills? What are we doing? Because at the end of the, then once again, it's our decision. And okay, if we're gonna be honest, when we have free time, we take that serious. It's free. And I'm probably not going to be working on anything. And you know, one of the things I talk about all the time is that how we focus so much outwardly and on others. And I always ask someone to dispute what I'm about to say. We are with ourselves 100% of the time. Want to debate it? But when you look at the 100%, if you start putting percentages to the things that we do and the things that we think about and the things that we focus on, what does that equation look like? You might be with yourself, but how much of that is on you? That I'm working on me, working on something. And we have been led to believe by society, our society has said, if you do that, you're selfish. I say if you don't do that, the likelihood of you having more challenges and problems are much higher and much greater, right? Because we're so focused. I'm so focused on what Carla is doing, what Carla is saying, and how she's working. Well, I could be spending that time focused on me. So the same thing with the AI, right? And if you're really using it to solve something, right? Like I can Google, Dave, tell me, can I use AI to tell me how to remove a cataract from my eye? Can I do that? Probably, and probably get a yeah. But can I do it? And so is it really useful information? Am I going to be awake enough to tell the doctor who's doing the surgery, you did that wrong. You're not doing it right. AI said, and I know, and I don't mean to trivialize it, but I go back to the efficiency and effectiveness of it and what we actually do with it. And will we benefit from the time that it saves? Will we really do that as humans? Will we take advantage of that?
Yeah, that's so beautiful.
It's just my opinion.
It's so beautifully said. It's incredible. I want to ask. We got a couple minutes left here. I want to ask, how are you feeling about the state of Utah? And by state, I don't mean the actual state. Like, how are we as Utahns doing right now? What are some positives you're seeing? What are some negatives? What can we as leaders of organizations in our communities do to improve some of these things? And just give us your overall sense, like as we head into 2026 right now, the state of Utah, where are we?
So let me say this, and I say this often, especially outside of Utah. Everything you hear about Utah outside of Utah is not true. Especially, I'm in a room, and most times I'm in a room, and it doesn't matter if it's in Utah. Most times I'm in a room with people who don't look like me. So when I say Utah Black Chamber of Commerce, it's like, what? There are black people there? And I have this standard joke that I say, yep, all 8 of us. But no, we exist. But we also exist in a way, it's not that Utah is utopia. It is not. But the things that we have been able to accomplish here through partnerships and collaborations and meeting people where they are happens more here in Utah than other places. Clap, absolutely. It happens here more in Utah than anywhere else. And so the reason for that is, and I use this description. Utah has a culture of collaboration. It has a culture of inquisitive, want to understand, but then want to understand, well, how do we partner? I am representing a chamber of commerce. Everything we do is about economics. There's a reason why Utah is has the number one economy in the country, because people really focus on that. And so the work that we do is a part of this economic thesis. It's an economic ecosystem. My job and my role is to ensure that all businesses are vital to the economic ecosystem. Well, that's what they hear. So that's the conversation. I remember first getting here and, folks didn't want to talk to me because it was the Black Chamber of Commerce. I guess they thought I was going to come with all the black problems. Well, guess what? Some about same problems. But this is about economics. And so either you're going to cost the system something or you're going to contribute to the system. And so when we talk about access to affordable capital and barriers and things like that, we only want to address those so that we can contribute to the system. Because when those barriers are there, we cost the system something. But that's not unique to us. It's very prevalent, but it's not unique. And so sometimes in Utah, we want to talk about ourselves like we're so different. And we are. But we are different in a way that I feel we're so much better. But what makes the news, right? And so what I continue to charge us with is helping to change that narrative. It's incumbent upon us to do that. Folks love telling the stories that they hear about Utah. And so when I'm in other parts of the country, I talk about what really happens. Like, well, how did you all get to be in the top 3 chambers of commerce in the country because we have partners, we have listeners, we have collaborators, and yes, everybody benefits. Is it transactional? Yes. Is business? It should be. For me to make an excuse to say this isn't transactional, I'm here today. This is a transaction. As I told you, I don't take sitting on this platform lightly, right? And it is important that outside of Utah, there is an understanding. And there are those who said, no, don't tell everybody. Well, that's not really the Utah way, right? Because you cannot grow an economy in a silo. Silos exist for a reason, and they should. There are circles that you can move in that's for you, right? But what's important is that we are connected. We are not a monolith, right? So this whole notion of everybody has to be together, you might believe that that's what happens, but that's not what happens. What's important is the connectivity. So if you're in that circle, I want you to mention my name. I want you to be my advocate. And understanding, I can't come in that circle. But that doesn't mean that the benefits of that circle can't benefit others that are in the other areas. So I think one of the things of backing away, of focusing so much on what we don't get right? But we are really good at a lot of things, but we don't talk about it enough. And we just let that narrative live out there.
So my immediate follow-up is, how do I get you to run for governor? Because you would be incredible, and everything you just said was so perfectly said, and something that's so needed in our state, to not focus just on the negatives, but to promote the positives and be willing to stand up for, the place you live in. I think that's really interesting. You also said something in there about everything is a transaction, and you're exactly right. You said you're either giving to the system or you're taking from the system, and I think about that a lot. From a community perspective, at Silicon Slopes, we say we always want you to give more to this community than you take. Mm-hmm. But we don't say we only want you to give to this community and not take.
Right.
Because then it's not a community at all. But hey, give more than you take.
That's why it's called a transaction. Because both of the things happen. And what we say is that we have frowned upon it's a transaction. Yeah. This is a transactional relationship. Isn't give and take happening? Is that not what's happening? So it's the connotation that we put on things for our own benefit, right? And so, but when it's a transaction for you, it's perfectly fine. Yeah. But if it becomes a transaction for me, then it's problematic.
And this is the thing that I've seen that kills community orgs and communities almost more than anything, is this idea of hey, we really like everything that community organization does, but they're transactional. And we're going to do the exact same thing. And the only difference is we're different people. And so all of a sudden you've got, I'm sure all of you know, you have the Crumble cookies, and then there's 800 cookie companies. Or you got Minky blankets, and then there's 800 blankets. We're really good at copying each other here in the state of Utah. And again, the only difference is this is what I'm doing. I don't, you.
But you make a difference.
Yeah.
It matters, because I really might not like your cookies, or I might not like you, so I'm going to go over here. But that's what I use as an example?
It's pretty interesting, right?
I use the bread aisle as an example. How many different brands of brown bread, white bread, sourdough bread, bread, the bread aisle is long. There's enough room for everyone. And why is it one Saturday when you don't have bread, you walk in and there's no bread? Because everybody didn't like the one single brand, right? Options create opportunities. In a community where there are fewer options, it is not growing. And so I get it in the chat where they're starting the same kind of company, but they're not you. And just because you're the only one that exists doesn't mean everybody is going to come to you. I might just stop eating bread. I just might not have bread anymore. But that's real. That is very real, and we have been lulled into thinking that if I'm the only one, then everybody's gonna come to me. That is so unrealistic. That is so unrealistic. There are people who, they fly across the country to buy a car. Are you kidding me? But that's who they are, that's what they wanna do, that's how they do, but it's their option. And that option provided them that opportunity. We talk about, I use the barber.
It's actually my
Go
dream
to the
job.
same barber. That's not happening. And because you're the only barber in Mayberry, does not mean everybody's gonna. I know that went over. You all are too young. Everyone's looking like, Andy Griffith. That's where Mayberry existed. But options are perfectly fine. You're not going to get 100% of the market segment. That is not going to happen. And sometimes competition will help you step up your game.
You said so many incredible things in this hour. Options create opportunities might be one of the top. I'm so glad that we have that. I would be taking notes if I wasn't up here. But luckily we've recorded this. I want to end with this. I've never met a more community-centric, more give more than you take person than our mutual friend, Nikki Walker, who we lost. And the loss that is for Utah is huge. I feel that all the time. Like, she was the one who brought us all together. Like, Nikki could get me to show up to funerals of various people. Like, she would like, hey, you, like when Nikki texted me and said, hey, Clint, you need to be at this thing, I knew I needed to be at this thing, right? And can you just talk about, like, as we end this, like, her legacy?
Absolutely.
And how we kind of can all embody that and maybe, try to fill this hole that she's left here?
That hole will not be filled. You cannot replace Nikki Walker. That's not a reality. But the work, the passion, the intentionality, the investment that she made in everything that she approached and she touched. We can model that. We can absolutely model that. To have that level of influence and impact in the circles and silos and networks that we function in. In all transparency, I called upon my Nikki Walker spirit to write that email to you, because I would have had to send it to her for her to say, okay, we need to put this fire out. Okay, we're not going to say it that way. And so I channeled my inner Nikki, because what was most important was moving forward, right? And that's and so I'm here today, right? We work through, and so that's what we all individually have to do. So I think what's important is that we don't just kind of talk, we really remember, but own what she poured into us and put it to use. That's what's important. And so that's how we will get the outcomes and the impact that she brought.
Dr. Shorter, thank you so much for being here, for speaking with our community. I know we're going to be doing some other things with you at the Silicon Slopes community. Your voice here matters in the state of Utah. Again, I'd love for you to be governor. So just putting that out.
Let me go ahead and leave, because that's not happening. That's
Let me
not
just put that
happening.
out there. I'll be the first to
Yeah.
hold your campaign sign. And thank you for who you are as a leader in this state. Oh, we're so lucky to have you here in the state of Utah.
It's my state now. Y'all keep saying I'm glad you're here. I'm home. I'm at home.
Yes, thank
I'm
you.
home. Yeah. But thank you.
Thank you for making it a home.
Yes.
Let's say it like that.
Thank you.
so
I
much.
appreciate it. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.